expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos Cesar.
And the audio is just a tad low overall.
Well, it's probably because I turned it down in the studio so that it doesn't reverberate all over the place.
Yeah, well, it's just a little low, but that's okay.
Okay.
Well, here we are again. Here we are again, Carlos, in a city, in the city by the river.
Yeah.
And the beat goes on. Yesterday, I was perusing the article from our chief of staff, Lou. I'd never live in Fall River, Pacheco. I gave him all little nicknames on the last show.
Before you start, Chip, before you stop, I want to welcome our internet viewers who are now watching us live.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes.
You can watch us live now on FRC Media, direct from their website, where they are airing it live, and as usual, our YouTube viewers and our Facebook viewers. So again, we're moving forward, very rapidly into the new internet streaming people. If you have any problems with the streaming live on the website, please don't hesitate to call FRC Media and let them know, because they want to fix that and get it so that you can watch it very clearly. Mm-hmm. So, and with that, I will clean up with the house cleaning and turn it right back to you, Chip.
Okay, yeah, we're still a tad low, but yeah. While we're on that vein, before I get back into the beginning of the tirades, so I'd like to also thank our viewers, because after our last show, I ran into a whole bunch of people who saw the show and were very pleased. And of course, we don't really, if you're pleased or not pleased, at least we're making you think. And we like to bring a view of the city, and they were very happy about our position that we don't pay taxes for all these pork jobs and supervisors, that we pay taxes for firefighters and police. But it's nice to know, a lot of people came up and talked about the show, and it's great that people are watching us, and that hopefully we're bringing them a perspective and getting them involved in the process. And with that, I get back to the article in the paper from our chief of staff, who said everything's on the table. Everything. Proposition 2.5 overrides, fees, increased rates, increased everything. And what you got from that article is that, look, their basic fix to this is to, again, burden the taxpayers in the city of Fall River. And I'm going to go on record and say, listen, that's not leadership. That's not a plan. That's a shotgun approach. You're throwing everything out there to see what has the least amount of public backlash. That's not what leaders do. Rather than figure out how you could get all your friends to work in Fall River for your first 100 days, you might have been looking at the departments, cutting some of the fat, coming up with a comprehensive plan to reduce the fat in the city of Fall River, bring us down to a bare minimum, and see how we could do what we have to do by cutting first and tightening our belts and streamlining and consolidating. And then, and only then, look at some ways that made it necessary to increase a little bit of the tax burden. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not effective. It's not leadership. It's not leadership. As a matter of fact, my quotes, I have to put this one. I'm on a Chairman Mao kick now. This is what Mao Zedong said. The cardinal responsibility of leadership is to identify the dominant contradiction at each point in a historical process and to work out a central line to resolve it. Well, you know something? We are at a contradiction in our history as a city. We are at a time where the leadership of this community thinks the way to fix this community is to bankrupt the community. Because their fix is to take money away from the second poorest community in the state of Massachusetts. That is not leadership. That is not a solution. That is a problem. And I am incensed by this whole attitude, this whole relentless attack on the people who can't afford it. And as I said before, you may be sipping pina coladas with Kenny Fiola and his $500,000 income collectively, and all the other well-to-do people in your social circles. But I have to go to a meeting every month for retirees who are trying to hang on to their homes, spending 1/3 of their income on prescription drugs, and trying to hang on to a house that they brought their children up in on an income that's about $14,000 or $12,000. I think it's outrageous what's happening in this city. I think the city council had better realize that they better look very, very closely at it. And now the rumor that they're going to attempt to bypass the process to get the fees through the Board of Health before the city council repeals Chapter 40, Section 22F is outrageous. And with that, I'll defer to my co-hosts here because I'm upset enough. I want them to rant a little bit.
I'll get you the Valium in a few minutes, and you can calm down. But it's just interesting because Carlos and I were at the Maplewood meeting this week, and at the Niagara meeting this week, and he's getting the speech down pretty good. And I actually told him that. The problem I'm having is that the numbers are now changing. Now we're talking about maybe a $5 fee instead of a $10 fee. But if we go with the $5 fee, it's going to be 14 firefighters and 21 police officers that we have to lose. And, I brought up the fact that why is it always the reverse pyramid of management? And he says, oh, well, we can't do anything about that because we have contracts in place. And, it doesn't matter that DCM, is smaller. And he goes, well, who put on those 2 extra supervisors? I said, I believe that was put on during the Flanagan administration. And he said, well, I'm not going to say anything about that. And, he kept going on. But, we've talked about this in regards to the fire department, where we have a smaller fire department, yet we're still putting on more captains and more lieutenants and more officers for a smaller force. Now, why would you do that? I mean, we need people on the front lines. And I understand, people don't want to hear demotions and moving around. But the mayor to turn around and say, oh, I'm bound by the contract is a little, I don't know. It's, more about contracts, Chip, than anyone else. And I've got to leave that in your park, not in mine.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you right now before Carlos weighs in, that's absolute BS. They can do it. As a matter of fact, all you had to do was watch the news last night and look over to Providence, where Mayor Elorza, who said he is attempting to hold a line on taxes to the citizens of Fall River, is going to completely reorganize the Providence Fire Department and eliminate an entire platoon, which is, in our parlance, it's a task force. So that means he's shutting down an entire task force or platoon because it's basically a quasi-military kind of thing, and they refer to their district chiefs as battalion chiefs, so they go platoons like the military. But the reality is they're reorganizing the department and he's cutting jobs. And guess what? They're the employer. Most of these jobs are not in ordinance and can be eliminated. Sam is manipulating fact. I've gone through this. I've arbitrated this, and that's a flat out misdirection of what's actually, and it's a lie, period. I mean, I was trying to look for an adjective quickly, but my brain froze on that because, well, okay, basically it's BS. They can do it, and they can do it, and even if these jobs were in ordinance, You can still reopen negotiations and say, well, if you don't allow us to reorganize, we're going to eliminate the jobs. And then you put him in a position that was done when Correa got in. He said, take the 8% pay cut or I'll do this. And they did. You know, what people don't realize is on the collective bargaining law in Massachusetts, Chapter 150E, a contract can be no longer than 3 years. But also, any part of that contract can be opened up at any time by mutual agreement. So it's not like, oh, that's it, we can't do anything for 3 years. That's absolute crap. Absolute crap. The fact is, it's always one party or the other party that doesn't want to give in and open up the negotiations. But theoretically, you could sign a contract on Monday and reopen again by mutual agreement on Tuesday. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carlos.
Let me give you my view. With the Lupachico's letter, the first step, I think it's correct. It's put everything on the table. Yes, you should put everything on the table. The second thing is educate the community about what you have on the table. And then the third step is let the people pick from the table, not you, what's going to be best for you. So the first step was done right. Let's put everything on the table. The second step will be education. Let's tell the people what this is, and what this is, and let us do what is best for us, if we can afford it to start. The second thing is, and I told this in an interview that I gave to WSAR when it was the question of the $10. And I made a question to my reporter. I said, I'm going to make you a question too. What is the difference for the people that Flanagan throw the purple bags down people's throat with no education? And what is the difference that Mayor Sam is putting the $10 down the throat of the people with no education about? It's the same thing. So he's pretty much following on the same steps that Flanagan was doing. So that this is going to cost him the seat.
And you know, I think you're right, Carlos. But the problem is, what I don't see in that letter is I don't see a real plan to tighten the belt, to reduce the fat in the city. And the other thing is, what really upsets me, and it's been done for years, they tried it when I was a president, it always gets down to the threat of every single tax, every single time they want to take more money out of our pockets. This means X amount of police, X amount of firefighters. And that's crap. Because you know something, I was talking to a few city councilors, and I asked them both this question, not at the same time. It wasn't a violation of any, but I didn't have three of them in a room or anything like that. But, on different occasions, I spoke to a few city councilors, and I asked them a very simple question. I said, in all the years you've been councilors, and both of these councilors have been councilors for a while, I said, whenever we've had cutbacks, how many supervisors or administrators have you seen cut? And the answer was, well, I can't really remember any getting cut. And all we have to do is look at these departments. Look at the school department. God, look at that horror show. Look at it. I mean, remember 20 years ago when we had teachers and smaller classes? And now, even though we have a lower population, we have larger classes, but we have 4 times the administrators. We've got all these support jobs, learning coach, COO of the middle schools, deans of students. I mean, God, you look at that budget and it's horrific. I mean, I look at it and I go, my God, there's so many titles. I mean, what are we managing here? I mean, they have less management to manage in the entire United States Army. I think they have less supervisory personnel. And it's like, my God. I mean, you look at this, and then every time there's a layoff, it's teachers, police, fire, DPW workers, not supervisors, no officers. And I told him, how many deputy chiefs in the police department have ever been laid off? How many officers in the fire department have ever been demoted? The time they were going to cut jobs on, when I was the president, I did find some money in the budget, and those cuts didn't come to fruition, but there was already a movement in place to demote. As a matter of fact, I changed the way the demotion is, because under civil service law, it's total seniority on the job, which I felt was unfair, because that means that if somebody made lieutenant and he'd been a lieutenant a year, but he had 1 month more seniority than a lieutenant who had been a lieutenant for 10 years, he kept his job. I felt, look, you know, the experienced officers should stay, so it was by seniority and rank. For layoffs, it's total seniority. But the fact is, listen, we always lay off the people that we're paying our taxes for. We're always laying off the people who provide us the services. And then they come back and say, if you want those services, pay more. Well, you know something? If this is a business, I'm not buying anymore, because I don't want to pay anymore for you to pay all your high-priced political cronies and all your administrators. I said on the last show, and I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it through the next election, I pay my taxes for services. I pay my taxes for the people that you lay off, not the people that you keep on the job, and I am aggravated.
Yeah, and I have to say, I had approached a couple of school committee members, and the answer that I'm getting back is they only have 1 week to look through this budget. You know, the way that the things are implemented is like you have no choice. You know, it's no time. You have to pass it. My question now is, if the budget don't pass it, I know for a fact that 2 members had complained about the budget this year, but they were alone. Everybody else would approve it. So the thing is, the movement that we're putting, the citizens of this city, putting together and approaching the city council needs to move now to the school committee meetings, okay? Because we need to approach them too. And the mayor, and he had mentioned a couple of times that the reason that he put that all that work into our budget was to clear the requests from the city councils and from the community that was they want to know where the money was and where the money were going. I think he should to do the same thing with the school department.
But you know, Carlos, the thing that I have a problem with is, you know, he constantly talks about transparency, okay? And transparency doesn't happen. We don't have anything that's transparent so far. Even that report, that executive summary he hands out to everyone, is just restating what we already knew. And the biggest problem I have too is the fact that, you know, when you look at something like the school department budget, okay, and as Chip had mentioned, we have, you know, deans of student services and the dean to the dean of student services and the special assistant to the dean of student services, who's also the, you know, chief of toilet paper allotment, and you know, you've got the other chief who handles trash, and you know, and I'm not talking students, I'm talking, you know, we just create jobs, and the school department is so heavy. And the worst part is we actually, and we've proven it, we actually hire people in Fall River, whether it be the school department or city side, that are not qualified. They're political hires, okay? And you have people who are qualified and they don't get the job because they didn't work on your campaign or they didn't, you know, kiss your backside. I mean, let's look at one right off the bat in the school department. Kevin Aguiar, former state representative, former school committee member, was hired as a guidance counselor with guidance counselor salary without the licensure. He was not licensed as a guidance counselor, okay? He had to go through a process over, you know, 12 months or 50 months or whatever it may have been, where he should have been paid intern salary, okay, to get that license. And then whoever was supervising him had to sign off for him to get that license. And now he's a vice president, principal, making $88,000 a year. And again, is he qualified? Does he have the experience? Does he have the license? And this is where we run into the problems, and we can't do it anymore.
Talking to a board member last night from the school, what I told him was, even if this passes and gets approved, I want you to look into this positions. The money is already there. Let's move the money around. Let's put more teachers in classrooms, take administrators out, just move the money around, because we need to approve the money anyway. It's no way out of approving the budget. But after the budget is approved, let's go through the budget and move money around. Put more teachers, more assistants into the classrooms. It's no need for all the money that we give to schools to have one teacher for 40 kids. It's no need for kids to be dropping food so they don't eat the leftovers, so they can have the new pizza. But you know, it's no need for that.
Carlos, come on.
Yeah.
You're talking like a person who actually wants to get something that's efficient and effective. Listen, it's not only the school department. The city councilors don't get the budget. They don't get enough time to go over anything. But there's never enough time. How many times have we seen the city council have the water department come up and say, if you don't approve these rate increases, the entire city water supply will collapse and everybody will get poisoned and it'll blow up and we'll get fined by the DPA and the EAP and the XYZ and everything's this is a government by crisis, and that's their excuse, because you know what it is? It's an excuse. It allows them deniability, because then when you hold them and say, look, this is ridiculous, and they go, oh well, I didn't have we don't get enough time. Well, ask for that, demand it.
Yeah.
Demand it. We did it with Blue Cross, because the last time the city rushed into the Blue Cross plan because they were $6 million short, and the Insurance Advisory Committee said, listen, we're not going to enter into any more agreements unless we get sufficient time to look at everything. But you know the problem? The problem's government, and that's why we have to change government, because let's look at government. The Braga Bridge. The Veterans Memorial Bridge. It took them 30 years to build that bridge. The Braga Bridge. They've been working on that thing for 15 years, and now they're going to close it again. It's never right. They painted it with lead paint. It took 10 years to paint the bridge. And everything in government is overinflated, people making money, and the taxpayer getting killed, and the people who get the services get nothing. Look, they can build a casino the size of the Flint in Las Vegas in a year and a half, and it's beautiful.
Inside, and there's no problems.
Inside there's 200 store shopping malls. There's everything. They can put anything in there, water slides, and it gets done. I mean, the casino in Macau is $1 billion casino. It's like they build these things. People in the real world build this stuff. But let's look at government. Veterans Memorial Bridge, the Braga Bridge, and of course the epic, the Babe Ruth of government programs, the Big Dig. Look, we can't do anything right when we have the government we have. We've got to eliminate, and as I said before, government is a necessary evil. And we have to make government as streamlined as possible, where the only thing they're supposed to do is make sure that we have enough personnel to give us our essential services. But we've allowed them to create an entire employment agency for all their friends and relatives, and mismanage our money, and waste it, and duplicate everything, and it's always the same. And here we are again. Give us more money. Give us, the city that spent $9,000 on a door, a city that got 22 windows installed that we still haven't figured out how they got installed, because they, under the cover of darkness, they had the crane there. All these things that we've seen, this massive mismanagement, money taken from the employee account and put into the city account, mismanagement, the inability to see how much money we have, all this mismanagement. And Mayor, I never saw a tax I didn't like, Sutter, is back in front of the public saying the only answer is to give us more money. You know what I say to that?
Well, and the thing that gets me, Chip, is, we have an expert out of Georgia who is renowned for his work in economic development. He has contacted every single city councilor. That's right, all 9 of you. Listen, you were contacted. And I know you were contacted because guess what? I sent out those exact emails from that gentleman to all of you. And while the only one that sends a read receipt back is Mike Mioza, and the other 9 don't, and 2 of the other 9 actually get those printed out by the office and sent to them by the city council office. I want to thank Colleen for that. None of you recognize that you've received it. None of you acknowledge it, okay? But I know you got it because guess what? I put what's called a delivery receipt on all the emails, okay? And that proves that they were delivered to you. So they went into your email box. So you can't say, oh, I never saw it, I never got it. You got it. And this gentleman has already said, this is what we're doing wrong, and this is what you need to do. And he has a plan. He's not even asking for a dime. He was doing this as a consultant gratis to just give them a plan of where to go. And guess what? Nobody contacted him. Nobody. And then I mentioned him to the mayor, and the mayor said, oh, send that information. I got a hold of the gentleman, and I gave him the phone number to call. Guess what? No response. So this is what happens when an expert comes to Fall River and says, this is what you need to do. And if you don't do it, you're going to fail. You know what they say? We don't want to hear that from you. Because guess what? We're going to do what we want.
And I know that I know for a fact that the city's been losing a lot of stuff because these people not being contacted by the city.
That's right.
And I know for a fact, I'm working with a company now that usually comes to the citywide cleanup every year. And they're not there, but guess what? They're going to be on the Flint because I contacted them back in February when I found out that they have been contacted on the end of January, and I didn't want to lose this company because they're good volunteers for our community. So I contacted them and said, I need you to come back to Fall River and be here. And they will be here the day before the citywide cleanup.
But you know, Carlos, it shouldn't come down to you and I or any private citizen to do the work of the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction, okay? This is where Kenny Fiola, for 25 years, okay, has provided nothing for the city. And then when you call him on his actions and you call him to task, okay, and you prove that what he's doing is wrong, illegal, or misrepresented, okay, an entire attack force has come out. I was told very clearly, off the record by somebody, that I'm dealing with a gentleman who is extremely vindictive and who cannot put his personal opinions and his personal feelings aside. And that is why we get nowhere. So I want to know, Mr. Fiola, what dirty pictures do you have on someone in city government that nobody can seem to get rid of you? And it's not because of your performance, okay?
Well, I got one thing to say to Carlos. Look, you know what bothers me, and it obviously I'm getting to the point. This is really upsetting me now with this situation because you know the city is on a precipice here. But what really bothers me is here I'm sitting across from a man who gets so much done with nothing. He doesn't have a staff. I don't hear Carlos saying, you know, the neighborhood association guy in New Bedford has 16 people working for him. Oh, he gets it done, you know, and I respect that. You know, and there are people in this community and there are businessmen who have to look at reality and do things the right way. And it is driving me crazy now that we got rid of a mayor. We did something that was historic in this state. We removed a mayor. And then we get the same old, same old. We have to begin to find people who will make government a necessary evil, not an employment agency.
Yes, yeah. And nothing and nobody can stop me from calling an outside company to come and move to Fall River. Nobody.
That's it.
It's not right anywhere.
Exactly.
As a citizen, I already emailed a couple of companies outside Fall River to come and look into Fall River. And nobody can stop me from doing. I'm a citizen, I pay my tax, and I want my city to move on.
And that's what we have to do. Hey, thanks for watching Spindle City Straight Talk. It's always great to be with you. Thanks for sharing us in your home. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Up the rebels. And thank you to all our veterans.